times.
Visit the WOCA website at www.woca.com. The most trusted name in news, Fox News, every half hour, only on 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source. Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday morning. It's still kind of cold out there, 36 degrees according to my thermometer here at the Paddock Mall, broadcasting live. And gosh, I've been looking forward to this interview for a while, and I didn't even realize until this morning that our guest was coming into the studio, so that makes it even more exciting. If you're watching the streaming video, you'll be able to see a very distinguished man on the camera. His name is Norman Fulkerson, and I want to say this before we speak to Mr. Fulkerson. I am a fan of biographies, and something I've noticed about biographies is that there are two types. In my thinking here, those types that recognize God's role in a person's life, and those types that don't seem to recognize it, even though the religious person, the Christian person, might be able to recognize God in a biography that doesn't even mention God. But there are other biographies will mention, this is what happened by the grace of God. They'll sometimes just throw in little things, or maybe even be more deep than that. It sounds like the book we're going to hear about definitely includes God into the story, and I'm so happy about that. Norman Fulkerson, you are a very accomplished man. You are a contributing editor. You write a column called Only in America for Crusade magazine. You're a contributor to the Brazilian periodical called Catolicismo?
Catolicismo.
Thank you, sir. So does that mean you speak Portuguese?
Yes, conversational, enough to get something to eat and drink.
You write a column. You're a 25-year veteran of the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property, and you are honoring us by being in our studio this morning. You are making a presentation this evening, correct, down in Orlando?
Yes.
At the
Incarnation Catholic Church.
Incarnation Catholic Church. Today's Ash Wednesday, so I have to think of what I want to give out for Lent. The book is called An American Night. Let me mention this before we start saying anything else. This is the biography, the life of Colonel John W. Ripley. There you go, on the screen right there. He was with the U.S. Marine Corps, best known for his heroic act of blowing up the Dong Ha Bridge in the Vietnam War, which divided the communist North from the South, and it sounds like he was a man of faith. Good morning, Mr. Fulkerson.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great. Nice to be with you here in sunny California, although it's a little cooler than I expected it to be.
California? You must have got it for the wrong airport.
Florida. It's early in the morning.
Where's home? Where do you live?
I live in Pennsylvania, Spring Grove, Pennsylvania.
Oh. So
that's where I hang my hat, but I travel a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like you do. Yeah. So tell me about your relationship with Colonel Ripley.
Well, I am a full-time member of the Association Tradition, Family, and Property. Actually, my bio is incorrect. It's not 25 years. I've been with the organization for 31 years.
Oh, wow. So that's an old bio.
Oh, yeah. It's a while. It's a lifetime. A couple of lifetimes. We're a very active organization. And Colonel Ripley was a strong supporter of our organization. So I came to know him through the group.
Did you know him?
I did. I knew him personally.
Did he like or resent the idea that the one thing that people always said was that he blew up that bridge? Because that seems like something he did, but it doesn't seem, in what I read, and you asked me before we went on the air if I knew him. I don't know him, but I read what you sent me, or what somebody sent me. I guess you guys sent it to me. And I was impressed with how he raised his children, how he lived his life.
Exactly. And that's a very good question, Larry, because, in other words, how did he define himself, I think is what you're asking me. He was proud of his accomplishments in the Marine Corps. And there's a legitimate form of pride. And when you accomplish something like that, he considered it an accomplishment against the communist offensive. He was proud of that, but as as you see in my book, the high point in the book is not that episode where he halted 30,000 troops, 200 enemy tanks dead in their tracks, but almost single-handedly. But the high point, in my point of view, in his life, was what he did off the battlefield. Like you said, he raised his...
That was the sense I got, yeah.
Yeah, he raised his children very Catholic. It was because of his upbringing. His father was very Catholic. His mother was a convert to Catholicism, but they prayed the daily rosary. But the high point in my book is where he spoke out on very sensitive issues, moral issues affecting the military, particularly in the mid-'90s during the Clinton administration. He spoke out against allowing open homosexuals to serve in the military and sending our women into combat, just to name two. And my book is the only place in print where you can read those testimonies in their entirety, unless you're Sherlock Holmes.
Did you have publishers who were reluctant to print that?
Well, the book was printed. It was a kind of an in-house printing, and I think that it would have been difficult to find a publisher who would publish the whole story. And that's one of the reasons that led me to write his story in the first place, because I feared he led such an extraordinary life, Colonel Ripley. He was such a role model that because of the controversial side of his person, that his story, the complete story, might never be told.
And now in Congress, they're trying to make the law that women should also sign up for the draft and be in combat roles, since some women want to be in the front lines.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting, in Colonel Ripley's testimony, I think it was actually about the issue, it was on the issue of homosexuals in the military. He pleaded with members of Congress, do not lead us into a battle from which we can never recover. And this is a Marine talking. So Marines, generally, they don't lose too many battles. But he considered these battles regarding those two issues, women in combat, homosexuals in the military, that they were detrimental to good order and conduct, and they were not for the good of the armed forces. But he also somehow recognized that there's a process going on here. And if we allow this, what's going to come next? And now, besides what you're speaking about, Robin, we see that they're talking about transgender in the military. So where does it stop? It's like the snowball's gaining momentum, and we don't know where this thing is going to end.
Yeah, and what are the thoughts of the people who've read the book so far? What is your feedback on that?
On those issues?
On those issues, yeah.
Well, it's curious. I was speaking about this with a group of friends last night. I gave a presentation on the book. There was a lady that read it, 80-year-old lady who had been taught by the nuns, and she was convinced that homosexuals should be able to serve. But her opinion was based on the fact that she saw a news item where a homosexual was crying and saying, I just want to serve my country.
Yeah.
And that changed her opinion. Well, human beings, we're rational beings. We don't change our opinion based on sentiments like that. But she said she read the testimony of Colonel Ripley, and it changed her mind. I've never had a person...
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So she
said it changed my mind immediately, because Colonel Ripley had a way of expressing himself. Those testimonies, and again, you can there are complete the complete testimonies on those issues you can find in the book. The way I like to explain is he expressed the values that we as Americans hold most dear, but unfortunately are being forgotten.
So, is that a centerpiece of his message to us all, or does it go beyond the military? Does it take those thoughts and bring them into my life? I'm not in the military.
It does.
Okay, and in what way?
It does, because again, he presents values. For example, when he testified against women in combat, he didn't argue it from the point of view of so many others. Regarding capability. There are certain weapon systems that women can't perform. There are certain physical attributes, upper body strength or what have you. When you argue from that point of view, you're going to have some woman come along and prove you wrong. Whereas Colonel Ripley raised the bar high, and he said, we shouldn't want this, we shouldn't desire this, we shouldn't promote this, because of why? Because of we should defend femininity, womanhood, and what we've come to appreciate in Western culture as the graceful conduct of women.
Norman Fulkerson is our guest. His book is called An American Knight, The Life of Colonel John W. Ripley. We'll take a little break and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, mostly sunny, breezy, and chilly. High 56 to 60. Clear and cold Wednesday night with lows in the 30s. Sunshine tomorrow, a little milder in the afternoon with a high of 60 to 64. Friday, partly sunny and becoming warmer with a high of 70 to 74. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Ask anyone around here, the best time to visit Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens is during these cool winter days. You beat the crowds, and you always get the best deals. This week, it's the Truckload Azalea Sale at Bob Wine's. Get this, quality budded and blooming, ever-blooming azaleas, not $6.99, but reduced to $3.99 during the Truckload Sale. Larger sizes are available. For Valentine's Day, get outstanding blooming bargains on anthurium, kalanchoe, sun patience, geraniums, gardenias, drift roses, and many more. Or how about a Valentine's Day gift certificate from Bob Wine's? Come to the Camellia Show Spectacular as well. Hundreds of trees all waiting for you in bloom. And there's a half-price BOGO on every tree in stock, too. Come on out this week to Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, Ocala. Open daily till 4, Saturdays till 2. We'll see you there this week for sure.
We're saving thousands with Robert Palmer.
So rule number one is always shop around. Always shop around. If you're trying to get a mortgage, if you're trying to get the best credit card, if you're looking at student loans, cell phone bills, you name it, rule number one is always shop around. Always shop around.
That's rule number one, just one more vital part of fighting back to stop being a financial zombie. Yes, you can take the mystery out of the complicated world of finances. Take charge when it comes to your money. Listen in on The Source, 96.3 FM and 1370 AM, Saturdays at 12:05.
Keep up with what's going on in the downtown area with Ocala Downtown Newspaper. Delivering thousands of newspapers to businesses in the downtown area, Ocala Downtown is there to keep you informed. They even have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask in return is that you tell them where you heard about it. It's simple. For more info, just call Tom's Picks, 352-804-1223, and pick up your copy of the Downtown Ocala newspaper today. Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online.
WWOCA, WOCA.
Your source for the number one sports weekends, Fox Sports, only on 96.3 FM, 1370 AM.
1370 WOCA.
All right, 18 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. We are honored to have in the studio Norman J. Fulkerson. He is the author of a book called An American Knight, The Life of Colonel John W. Ripley from the United States Marine Corps. I went to Amazon, and I see you have, oh my gosh, 73, I think, 73 reviews or 73 ratings anyway, a 4.5-star rating, all but one person giving it high marks. I don't know what's that problem with that one person. Maybe it was delivered in a... sometimes they do that when they get their packages delivered and the package is ripped. It'll get 1 star.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to it doesn't make sense to review a book because of the way it was delivered. Anyway, you are speaking this evening down in Orlando at 7:30 at the Incarnation Catholic Church. Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Incarnation?
After the Ash Wednesday Mass.
After the Mass, yes. And so if we want to go down there, the address is 1515 Edgewater Drive, Orlando. We were talking, just a side note, we were talking the other day about cathedrals because we didn't really know what a definition of a cathedral was. And long story short, we educated ourselves with the help of Google. And so therefore, there's a cathedral in every diocese. Mm-hmm. And then the one in our...
Church.
What's that?
It's like the mother church.
And the one in ours is in Orlando. It's St. James, I think.
I think so.
Is that what's it called? Yeah.
Is that what Google said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Google said. Is that wrong?
What did they say? It's like the mother church of the diocese.
Well, it said it was the cathedral of the diocese.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And cathedra.
But what is a cathedral? Yeah.
Cathedra, the seat of the bishop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's what it said.
Yeah.
For Colonel Ripley, he, even though he was told he was a hero, he was awarded the Navy Cross. He had a lot of other awards. But when you're a true person like he is, you don't feel that way, because you just feel in your heart that you're serving your country and you just want to do the best you can do. And you've done a wonderful job of expressing that in your writing.
Thank you very much. And what you say, Robin, is very true. I met a number of heroes like Colonel Ripley, but Colonel Ripley was really an example along the lines of being very humble. So he was proud of his accomplishments, the things that he had done for his country, but he was not one to wear them on his shoulder. He was a very humble, unassuming man, and he gave a great importance to the junior enlisted Marines, to give them attention and to mentor them towards the end of his life. That he did a lot of mentoring, but that's one of the things that really jumped out in Colonel Ripley, and you can actually see it in his picture. There's a lot of idealism in his face. He has a clean face, but there's something very humble and unpretentious about him, and that's what made him so refreshing as a Marine, as a man.
On your Amazon page, there is a review from, I won't read the whole thing, but it is from Colonel Wesley Lee Fox, who says, "I knew Colonel Ripley like a brother for 42 plus years, but the facts are that I learned still more about my Marine buddy from Norman Fulkerson's book."
Yeah, Colonel Wes Fox is a Medal of Honor recipient, great man. I'm dear friends. I'm friends with him and his wife, Dottie Lou. And Colonel Fox knew Colonel Ripley very well. And so I was very happy that I was able to provide something else, because a lot of them knew Colonel Ripley professionally in the Marine Corps, but they didn't know. And I'm like you, I love biographies, because you get into what makes the man. So this is the only biography of Colonel Ripley. So the people that knew him in the military, they didn't know about his early days in Radford, Virginia. He was referred to Radford's Huckleberry Finn. He was a typical mischievous youth, getting into pulling off pranks, getting into trouble.
Is that right?
Pushing the envelope in preparation for what he would do in Vietnam. Huh. So a lot of the people that he served with, they didn't know his background.
It is interesting how leaders emerge and how leaders are formed. I don't think that all leaders are born leaders. Was he a born leader?
Yes, I would say he was a born leader. From a very early age, it seemed that he showed signs that he was the one in charge.
Was it contagious? Was his leadership contagious? And was it contagious for you? Did you?
Oh, absolutely.
Did your leadership skills somehow become enhanced or improved because of getting to know him?
Yeah, because in the biography, I point out some of his rules for leadership, and they helped me very much. Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but he had what were called the Ripley rules. So his principles that he lived by, which are outlined in the book, they helped me enormously, but it was his person, his way of being, his way of composing himself that inspired me. And I've had other men say the same thing. It inspires you to be a better individual, a better father, a better Catholic.
How did you keep your objectivity when you wrote the book and not leaned so one way that you made him to be like a superhero? Yeah.
Yes, some people mentioned that. I tried not to write something, portraying him as a saint, although there are people that read it and they think that there was a particular woman that thought that he was a saint after reading it. It's a hard thing to do, because you want to show the whole man, but at the same time, I mean, we all have aspects of our life that we don't want known. So it's not the case to air someone's dirty laundry. But the fact of the matter is that when I researched his life, all the people I talked to, he led a very exemplary life. So whereas some people might have some skeletons in the closet, I didn't find any skeletons in the closet with this man.
Yeah, but anything in any of our lives, I mean, it's a perfect day to talk about that, because Ash Wednesday, that's the day of repentance. It's a day for saying, you know what, I'm not perfect. I'm going to admit it, and I'm in the hands of God. And that's true for everybody, and whether you're a leader or not. In fact, a leader would be the first to say, look, I don't want to tell you what I did wrong, but trust me, I did some stuff wrong. Yeah. Would you have disagreed with any of his thoughts, with any of his philosophies?
No. I really don't think no, there's nothing that I found in my research about him that I would have disagreed. But the thing is, he wasn't a saint, and he did mischievous things. But what I liked about him is that he was mischievous, but there was I'd never sensed malice in the things that he did. To me, the way I say
There's
it
a
is
big
that
difference, yeah.
he was pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
He was testing himself from a very early age, which, by the way, that's what boys do. In the world today, they're
what
trying
humans
to
do.
purge the boyishness out of boys, unfortunately, because boys are boys, they're not girls. So they're going to be climbing trees, they're going to be breaking bones, and that's what Colonel Ripley did. He did pranks, but it wasn't malicious. I didn't note in him.
Well, that's a wonderful way to put it too. I think I was probably a prank guy too. Still am in some ways, but I don't think ever wanting to hurt anybody would be.
No, exactly. Yeah,
So.
He didn't want to hurt.
Did he ever consider running for office?
No, he didn't. But the founder of our organization, Professor Plínio Correia de Oliveira, considered him to be a man. He said he once said when he found out his story, he was Brazilian. He said, if only this man were president of the United States. And that's one thing I have to bring up because now we're in the presidential cycle. We have all the debates and people are fed up with the establishment. They're looking for something that's authentic.
Right.
And unfortunately, without getting too much into politics, many of the candidates fall short. I mean, we don't see a candidate out there, but if Colonel Ripley were running for president, that's what we need. And the reason I say that is because we look for economic solutions. People are looking basically to get a situation where they can have more money in their pocket, but we need to get right with God. And what Colonel Ripley, what he expressed very much, especially in his testimonies on those issues, is that he put God first. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you.
Yeah, and we've had candidates that would say that. They have usually been soft-spoken. Jimmy Carter was soft-spoken. Ben Carson is soft-spoken.
Yeah, very.
And both believers in God, strong believers in God. Donald Trump, very, very loudmouth, and I have no idea what his religious beliefs are. I can't tell.
Yeah, I can't either.
But if we had elected Colonel Ripley to be the president of the United States, he would have then been the commander-in-chief. Would he have had to live by the public demand for homosexuals in the military or for women in the military?
I think there was a man that said about Colonel Ripley when he gave those testimonies, actually a great man, Colonel Black, Vietnam vet, that he said there are certain issues regarding the military, but in life the same thing. There are certain issues that you throw yourself on the sword over. In other words, you sacrifice it all. You sacrifice your career, possibilities for advancement.
Yeah.
And he said homosexuals in the military was one of those issues. So it's an issue where...
Was it because, okay, this is going to sound sexist in a way, but I guess, sorry. But I think you don't want women in the battlefield. They could be in the military, and this is my thoughts now. But I think in the battlefield, it could be a distraction. They could be perhaps a little bit weaker physically, but a homosexual man may not be. So there's an argument right there that, was his point that they couldn't fight as well?
He talked about unit cohesion. And when you talk about the homosexual male attraction, the thing is they're living in close quarters. They're sleeping right next to each other. They're showering right next to each other.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about person that has the.
So it wasn't
opposite sex.
necessarily anti-homosexual in general.
No, absolutely
just in the military.
He was a Catholic, and as any Catholic, we must pity people that have an inclination towards a certain sin. Unfortunately, our society today is saying it's not a sin. So he wasn't quote unquote homophobic, but the thing is, it was you don't have them in the military in close quarters because, especially from the point of view of proclaiming my rights, which is the same goes for the women in combat as well. He said the minute you have a person talking about my rights as opposed to the unit, you run into trouble.
Good interviews always go too quick. Norman Fulkerson, thank you for visiting us today, and to Ruby. Thank you. And Dominic, thank you both for coming in today also. Drive carefully down to Orlando. And the book is on Amazon. It's called An American Night. And is that the best place? Is there a website?
There's also, yes, there's a website, a book website, www.americannight.org. And on that website, you can find video interviews with Colonel Ripley. There's actually a beautiful video of his funeral, which was extraordinary.
Wow. Well, it's somebody I'm going to want to get to know, and I'll do that through your book. Norman, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Go get one. We're going to shake this country top to bottom. Thank you all very much.
And Ted Cruz behind Kasich.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. The next GOP face-off, South Carolina.